Okay, so we're going to have a look in Ableton at how we bounce out stems. This track is made up of some synths, some samples, and some drum kits. Now, the drum kits have already been separated into each of their individual drum sounds. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is give a name to these tracks, because if we import these into another workstation at a later date, we're not going to know what each of these channels are. So let's just have a quick listen. Okay, so let's call that hi-hat. And we'll name it according to the kit too. Deep hat. Deep hat. Verb. And your naming conventions really should reflect what's on the track in a very obvious way. So we will go through the rest of the arrangement and we'll name it in the same way. So on our 808s, we could go into our 808s and tune those. Not tune, sorry. Give them key information. That one seems to be on E. And in order to get most accurate with this, we can reduce the range here and bring it up to something that's much more usable. And you can see there that that's sitting on B. And then the same again. Now, why it's handy to have this for your future self is that if you're mixing, you can then tell what note these 808s are hitting now. Let's just rename the groups also. It's always handy to give yourself 4 beats at the start. And there's a very clearly defined start and end. And we want to make sure that at the end, all of our ambience have died before we stop. So we can see on the master and on the EQ, there's still a wee bit. Now that we've got all the tracks highlighted, I've clicked on this tab bar. It's selected the area that I'm going to highlight, and we can go to File and Export Audio. We're looking at this dialog box that says Selection and Render Track. It's going to only render out the master. We don't want that to happen. So if we click on the drop-down menu, we can go to all individual tracks. We want to have it on phrase 4, bar 4, beat 1, and at the end we're going to go to phrase 129, and that is bar 1 and beat 0, because it's going to stop at the start of that bar. The rendering options then, we're going to include return and master effects, which are, of course, our send channels that could be adding atmosphere or ambience. We don't want to render it as loop. We don't want it to be mono. We don't want to normalize it, which means makes it as loud as possible. That's not our intention here. We're going to create analysis files with each of the audio files, because we're going to re-import them to Ableton once again. And that means we don't have to wait for Ableton to load them and analyze them on the first import. We're going to export them at 48 kilohertz, which is consistent with my project setup, as you can see indicated by the wee speaker icon here. And then we're going to go to the PCM, which is the wave code or the audio file that we're going to encode it. We're going to turn that on, and we're going to export it as an AIFF. Now, we can do that as WAV also. The file types are almost the same. The AIFF, however, allows us to encode track information in there too, like track names. The bit depth is 24-bit, consistent with the project. And dither options, we're not going to have any dither on. Dither is part of the very, very final last stage that you would use to reduce the file size, or sorry, the bit depth and bit rate. But that's for distribution later on. We're not interested in that. MP3, no. SoundCloud, no. Video, no. Okay, so we'll export, and then it's going to ask us where we want to export to. So I've already created a stems for amps folder on my desktop, but even within that, we're going to create a new project folder, and we're going to call this one the track name. I'm actually going to reduce that name to an abbreviation. And after this hyphen, it's going to give me the name of each track. So it'll be the right cause, drums or clap or ambi kit or 808 ERC or whatever we name the track to be. So when we save that, then it takes a minute to render that out. Okay, so we're now going to import the files into Ableton. And if we drag our files onto the first audio channel and hold in Command, you can see how it'll place everything down vertically. And we can now play that back just to make sure that everything has bounced out. I'm going to turn this down too, so we don't get blasted. We can now go through and make sure that everything's played back One additional tip is to add the BPM and key information to the track, so that will be at 160 BPM, and it's in F minor. And that's it. Arcade for the future, ready to share or ready to be sent off to a mix engineer for a proper mix. All right, thank you very much.